Okay, so I will go ahead and get started, and then if anybody else joins us, they can catch up. For those of you that are on the phone, we're going to record this, and then also I can send the presentation to Hillary or Courtney to send out to the larger group if that would be helpful for those who can't see, or maybe you're just joining with a computer or without your computer audio because it's better. So it's up to you. Just to take a moment to introduce myself, my name is Katie Civiletto. I work with Given Hour, and I'm the program manager for the Reserve Component Program. I also serve on the steering committee for the Veterans Community Partnership, so I'm grateful to have all of you here today. The purpose of today's presentation is to share who we are as a resource very briefly, and then go into our 5 signs and healthy habits, kind of looking at our campaign to change direction in honor of the week to change direction and how we can learn those 5 signs when we may be suffering or struggling emotionally, and how we can reach out, connect, and inspire hope to others, as well as maintaining a healthy emotional well-being. So just briefly, Given Hour is a free national nonprofit. We offer no-cost mental health services to military veterans and their loved ones. We have nearly 5,000 licensed mental health professionals in our network who are committed to providing pro bono care. So they offer no cost care to the individuals accessing our services. They would just go to the website givenhour.org, and I will walk you through how to find a provider if that's something that you need. We serve military veterans and their loved ones. So we serve anybody who's ever served a day in service, and then veterans, all service eras and all discharge statuses, and their loved ones. So aunts, uncles, girlfriends, boyfriends, fiancés, anyone who is affiliated with a service member themselves. We have licensed mental health professionals in all 50 states that offer 3 modalities of care: face to face, telephonic, and telehealth services through video platforms that are HIPAA compliant. And then we're also the backbone organization to the Campaign to Change Direction, which offers the 5 signs of emotional suffering and healthy habits of emotional well being. So I'll go to the next slide. This is who we serve. We touched on that really briefly, but if this is helpful for you to have on your desktop, you're welcome to save that there. This is the model that we use, particularly when working within the Reserve Component Program, but I think it's relevant to anybody who's accessing mental health services in general, whether or not they're eligible to receive Given Hour care. So we teach our healthy habits of emotional well-being, and we'll go into those in a little bit more detail in a minute. And then we also teach the 5 signs of emotional suffering. And then from there, we inspire people to reach out, connect, offer hope, and help through our network or through any of the agencies that we work with. That in this slide shows just veteran services, which is applicable to PCP, but outside of that, it could be your community mental health agency, it could be services available for the individual that you're working with that may be at low or no cost, or even just getting them enrolled to a mental health provider through their insurance. So walking through how to find individuals on our website, you go to givenhour.org, and then from there you can click on Get Help. It will ask you the state that you live in, the zip code that you are currently in, and then how far you're willing to travel, whether you're a military veteran or family member, or if you're affiliated with a natural or man-made disaster. So those will pull from 2 different provider pools. And then I don't fill anything else out. I use the provider bios that are generated on the next page. From there, you'll be able to contact the provider directly through the information on the website, and then receive the free care after coordinating with the provider. And then if there's ever any problems coordinating with a provider, we have a provider team that's at info@givenhour.org. So what do you expect? We expect that the clients feel safe and have a confidential environment where they can talk about their concerns, that counseling is free at no cost, and that the insurance is never billed by a provider. And then understanding how experiences are affecting your personal life or your relationship to learn ways of coping, or if needed, to be referred appropriately if there's additional need for services such as medications. It's important to note that we do not offer emergency services. Here are some of the lines that we have on our website. There's also a plethora of different resources out there locally, but these are national resources that we use when we're giving presentations, and that anybody can access at any time. So We started the campaign to change direction in 2015, and we really started to take a look at why individuals were not accessing the services that we were offering at no cost. And what we realized is that individuals in the military and veteran population were being asked to come forward and talk about something that we as a society generally don't talk about. I don't know why they have a little timer on this. So as a society, we don't openly acknowledge or discuss or address our mental well-being, nor do we value our mental health in the same ways that we do our physical health. And I am hoping that COVID-19 and some of the recent initiatives will start to change that we'll be able to one day have a conversation in an elevator or with our family and friends about the therapy that we do receive, or how we connected with a mental health provider, or what we do to maintain a healthy emotional well-being. So every year, Give an Hour and the Campaign to Change Direction put together what we call the Week to Change Direction. This time, it's running a little bit longer because everything is going to be virtual because of COVID-19, but generally we have in-person events where we have people share the 5 signs and healthy habits. We have a 5K that's been run in the past. It just depends on each individual community and what they're able to pull together. But the purpose is to really talk about our healthy habits and our 5 signs so that we can use them and integrate them into our daily life. It is a public health campaign. This particular portion of Give an Hour is not restricted to any population. So it is meant for the American public, and then it has gone international. Actually, I think now it's over 10 countries that it's in, and that have adopted it. And we recently, this week, just launched the Healthy Habits in several different languages. So if you have a population that you serve that speaks another language, you can go to our website, changedirection.org, and that you can see all of the different posters in various languages that might be helpful for the population that you work with. So yesterday was Memorial Day, and we all kind of took a moment to think about those who have lost their lives in service, who are no longer with us, the fallen. And I thought that this would be a helpful piece to add in. Kristen used to work for Give an Hour. She lost her husband to a death by suicide shortly after he returned from Afghanistan. So in remembrance of Jeremy and in remembrance of Kristen and all of the things that she struggled with, we wanted to highlight her story. She often talks about the signs that he was displaying, but she didn't recognize or know because nobody had given her that information or armed her with that information. So she talks about his risky behavior, his withdrawal, his isolation, and his uncharacteristic agitation. So in the next slides, we'll go through the 5 signs and how those may be tied to what Kristen had experienced but didn't have the information to equip herself to how to handle that situation. And with or without the information, we don't know if Jeremy would have ended up dying by suicide or not, but the hope is that individuals that have this information and have the ability to have conversations surrounding their mental health and emotional well-being will be likely to reach out and connect with a mental health provider that's able to assist them and to be able to find the path and find their hope again. So these are our healthy habits of emotional well-being. The first one is to take care, check in, engage with family and friends, relax and reduce stress, and to know the 5 signs. So we'll go into each of them, taking care of ourselves, making sure that we're eating, sleeping well, we're active, and we oftentimes forget how important these basic activities are for our mental health. But the truth is that they're very critical. Taking time to prepare your meals or small snacks, making sure that you're setting an alarm or creating a routine that provides your body with enough rest to recharge. So you could be going for a small walk, you could take 10 minutes a day and go outside, and that can really reset and help you to keep your mind clear. You can maybe practice mindfulness. You would go ahead and do that during that time. The next slide is to check in and get checkups. So a lot of times we are really good at going to the doctor for our physical needs, right? If you're a female, you would go in for your annual exam. Most people go in for a physical. They go into the dentist office every 6 to 12 months or twice every 6 to 12 months. You get your eyes checked, especially if you wear contacts or glasses. But we are really bad at, and generally, including myself, taking responsibility and looking at our emotional well-being. So some of the ways that we can do that is discuss with our family and our friends, our needs, our concerns, and our expectations as frequently as possible. Making sure that you're aware of support resources to help. And if you need to, you're talking openly with your doctor, a counselor, or a faith-based leader and your family and friends to make sure that you, yourself, and those you love are doing well emotionally. The next one is engaging, paying attention to our family and friends and the ones that are closest to each other. So if our relationships aren't healthy, it's unlikely that we ourselves will have a healthy emotional well-being. So paying attention to the relationships that you have and that you build, and how do you model that behavior. One of my favorite analogies or examples of this particular healthy habit is to be really honest when you look at people and you talk to them and they say, "Hey, how are you?" Instead of saying, "Hey, I'm good," or "I'm fine," or things are, normal, you can talk to them and say, "Hey, I maybe am struggling with this today. The weather is really bad and I'm feeling like I am not as happy as I normally am." I know that's big for me in Colorado. The sun's back out today, but whenever it's kind of gloomy and cloudy, I get really sad and I have to like reset myself and like take some time to adjust to the clouds. I should be so used to that because I grew up in Buffalo, New York, but now I'm spoiled and I live here in Colorado. So it really affects me and I have to pay attention to that and kind of reset myself when I get into that mood, or sometimes even just taking my dog for a walk, even if it's kind of cloudy or rainy, will help me to reset and kind of continue on through my day. And making sure you're modeling your own emotional well-being and concern for it, and taking others seriously, making sure that you're engaging with them so that in the future that your friends and your family will be more comfortable in coming to you in times of need. My slide's not working. The next one is to relax. So how do we do that? Before, after, and especially during times of stress, we need to make sure that we're prioritizing the time to continue activities that we find grounding. Some people that might be dancing, painting, kickball, yoga, meditation. Some people might like to cook or read. Whatever it is that gives you that moment of solitude, and however often you're able to, or as much as you need, you can even do this for 10 minutes a day and it will change kind of the way that you're feeling, the way that you process your emotions, things like that. So the last of the five signs is the last of the healthy habits is to know the five signs of emotional suffering. So those are personality change, agitation, withdrawal, poor self-care, and the feeling of hopelessness. We'll go into each one of those a little bit deeper in the following slides. So when we look at personality changes, this can be sudden or gradual changes in the way that somebody may typically behave. It's important to note that these five signs may be all together. So you may see them all at one time. You may see them kind of staggered throughout the interactions with people. So you may see one or multiple signs kind of appear, and you may see them just one of the signs that are appearing. We also like to talk about where they come from. So these are just signs that somebody may be suffering or struggling emotional. They cut across emotionally. They cut across multiple diagnoses, but they do not tie to any particular diagnosis. So when we look at our personality change, we want to make sure that the person is behaving differently. It can be clear that they're not, acting in ways that typically fit their values, or they may just seem different. So in Kristen's story, personality change was huge. When Jeremy got back from his tour, he changed, and she couldn't put her finger on what it was that had changed within him, but she knew something was different. And sometimes that's enough to have a conversation with somebody to talk about, how are you different? What has changed? Why are you maybe acting in a different way than you've acted before? And having the compassion to have that conversation. The next one is agitation. Kristen also mentioned this in her testimony that was at the beginning of the slideshow. So noticing that somebody may have frequent problems controlling his or her temper. They may seem irritable, unable to calm down, or in some extreme situations, they're not able to sleep and they may explode in anger at a minor problem. So their child maybe dropped some milk on the floor and they just exploded. And that's not something that they would normally do, right? So that can be a sign that somebody may have some emotional struggle that's going on underneath what they're showing. Withdraw, this is not to be confused with somebody who would be less socially engaged in general, maybe introverted, but somebody who changes in the way that they normally engaged with individuals. So they've stopped participating in their sports, they've stopped going to do different activities that they used to find really enjoyable, that maybe they used to kind of live for. They may fail to make it to work or school, and they may start to withdraw and pull away from people and their families and their relationships and kind of push everybody out because they're feeling like they are struggling and they don't want to bring anybody else down, or the reasons could be endless. The next one is poor self-care. When I started to look at this sign and I started to relate it back to my personal experiences with friends and family members that I saw suffering or struggling, I was thinking literally just personal hygiene, but that's not it. Yes, some people may not, get up and get dressed. They may not put on their makeup if they're, used to doing that. But other things that they may start to do is really using and abusing alcohol or illicit substances or engaging in other self-destructive behavior. And also that behavior pushes away or alienates the loved ones, kind of tying back to withdraw. The next sign is hopelessness. Noticing somebody who used to be optimistic and that can't really find anything to be happy or hopeful about. They may be suffering from extreme or prolonged grief, feelings of worthlessness or guilt. And then people in this situation may say that the world may be better off without them. So the hopelessness sometimes is a sign that indicates suicidal thinking. So what is the five? So how do the five signs and how do the healthy habits help us to engage in extra care? Or when should we and why should we engage in additional services? That could be through a faith-based counselor, it could be through our family and friends, or through a mental health provider. If we experience increased health anxiety, if we have a fear for our loved ones, feeling out of control or hopeless, having a decreased financial security. So amid COVID-19, maybe somebody lost their job, they're now on unemployment, they're trying to adjust to that, and they're having things that are tied to it as well. Also being aware that quarantine is promoting social withdrawal and loneliness. So a lot of people are back at their homes, they're not going out, they're not engaging that human interaction that we often drive for. And then also recognizing that quarantine is removing a lot of coping mechanisms, whether that's going to the gym, that's going out with family and friends, and kind of just resetting. It depends on each individual and how they may cope. How are we responding? We want to make sure that we're separating what is in our control and what is not in our control. So kind of taking a look at what can we have an impact on? What does what we do matter and change? And what can we not have an impact on? So right now we have very little say in what the governor is telling us that we're able to do. But we have very much say in what we choose to do at home, whether that's going on YouTube and finding a yoga channel that we really like, or taking time to read a book, or calling our family and our friends that are maybe far away from us or just down the street, and just making sure that we're engaging in the ways that we would normally do so if we were able to go out and function in society as much as we can, right, within our new normal. Making sure that we're paying attention to and doing what makes us feel a sense of safety. We can get outside in nature. We've been really lucky here in Colorado that not have a lot of our hiking and things shut down like other cities may have. So make sure that even going outside and doing like a 10-minute mindfulness walk or engaging that way, you can do that even within the compliance of COVID-19. We can also make sure that you're challenging yourself to stay in the present, you're staying connected with loved ones, and you're reaching out if you need more support. Some of the other recommendations during this time are to keep a routine, make sure that there's extra steps for relaxation and self-care, eating healthy and exercising, make sure that you're still maintaining a normal sleep schedule and continuing to mitigate the risk of contracting the virus. We also developed the healthy habits for emotional well-being during coronavirus. So the ones that we really highlight are to take care of yourself, checking in with others, engage and connect wisely, and relax and reduce stress. And we have all these downloadable on our website to be utilized however you see fit. If you want to download them and use them on social media or in your practice or in your organization, you're welcome to do that. There's a form to fill out, and then you're able to pull them as a PDF or a PNG file. So the next one that we developed was talking to your kids about COVID-19. So these are some tips and tricks that we can really take a look at and ensure that our children and the children around us are getting the reassurance that they need, especially right now with everything being different, and some of the children that may be engaging with our kids. So my stepkids have friends who have a really bad home life, and so they're having to have those really difficult conversations with their friends, and they're young, right, about how things are different, that they're not in school, and how they don't maybe have access to the food that they normally had, or have, a safe place to be during all of this. And so they were talking about how they're reaching out and having them try to hang out with them or contact them on Facebook, or maybe meet at the park and just like be near each other but not close to each other during the virus. And they don't live with us, so they're telling us this through FaceTime. So again, like how do we talk about that, and how do we encourage their behavior? And the next one is coronavirus coping with grief and loss. So right now there's a lot of grief and loss, and that could be due to a death, but it also could be just kind of the whole virus and disappointing. So different things like weddings are being canceled. You're not able to go to in-person funerals. I just talked to somebody who just did a funeral the other day via Skype, and how different that was, not being able to reach out and hold your loved ones when you're experiencing that, and loss of so many things during coronavirus. And so how do you cope with that? So we've got those tools that are up on there now, and I can probably get back to my screen with my video. And I just wanted to take some time with you guys to talk about the 5 signs and healthy habits, and maybe some of the things that you're currently utilizing during this time, and that you have found to be really helpful for yourself and for the ones that have been really close to you during this time. Does anybody have something that they typically use with the 5 signs or healthy habits that they didn't recognize as being part of something like this? Or
this is Hillary Lum. Feel free to unmute yourself and turn on your camera if you would like. And you can also use the chat box.
Oh yeah, I forgot. We have a quiet group today. I'm not sure if anybody, has any questions, or if anybody wants to come on their video for just a few seconds. If you wanted to, we can join together and kind of just see each other's face, and provide right now as like an opportunity to connect with each other, to feel like we're engaged with each other. Some people maybe are still enjoying Memorial Day weekend and not wanting to be on video, which is totally fine. That's usually me. But it's been such a different environment for us lately, and I hope that some of these tools are useful to you. You're welcome to print out all of the signs that are available. So the 5 signs and healthy habit posters that are on our website, changedirection.org. Hey, getting more people coming out to the break. The 5 signs and healthy habits can be printed. They've been utilized in so many different ways. Some college campuses have put them on the back of the bathroom stalls. Some people have put them on bulletin boards when they walk into clinics, or offices, or facilities. Just really recognizing them, and they're really easy and great to use, especially with kids. So what we found in the military and veteran population is a lot of times like children are coming forward and they're identifying, hey, Dad, you're different. There's a book that's been really interesting, and I think they came out with Why is Mom So Mad, but they also have Why is Dad So Mad, and that kind of really touches on like the agitation piece of the 5 signs and healthy habits and the withdrawal and the isolation and all of those things that didn't necessarily have a name for, right? We saw them, we engaged with them. And I had a really good friend, gosh, this was like before I even graduated my undergrad, so 2011, I think. And he came back from his 5th tour and he was literally displaying every single one of the 5 signs, but the 5 signs weren't a thing yet. And it doesn't have to be a military and veteran personnel. So my aunt, she was a chronic pain patient. She struggled and suffered emotionally for a really long time, and she had all the same signs. So she became, the person who would stay at home and who would not go anywhere, and she didn't want to do anything, and she didn't find anything that made her happy. So, sorry, I was just trying to read a chat and talk at the same time. It's not going so well. I'm still in Memorial Day mode, but if you guys wanted to ask any questions, I'm here. If not, and you guys want to go home, go back to work early or, anything like that, I'm open to that. But I don't want to hold anybody here just to talk at them. But if anybody wants to talk about it, I'm happy to moderate that.
Well, this is Heather Camper. I was just thinking with the whole video thing and how we lead teams, and this is more on the team side, not on the client side, but I have one team that loves the videos. We do it constantly. Another team that's always no video, and that's like the norm. And turns out someone was struggling with all the isolation. And so now we do make it a habit, at least as me as the manager and my supervisor, like at least we're on, so that trying to connect in that way too, and making those conscious choices, even though for most of this I was hidden because I was being shy. But
yeah,
it's changed everything and how we lead teams too.
Yeah, and so for me, I usually kept it on mute because this is our spare bedroom and it's a disaster, right? So today I was like, I have to be on video, so I'm gonna move all this stuff in here. And I found like actually it makes me really happy to turn around or to see like all of my things instead of just like the empty bed that like sits in here normally. So kind of just adapting to our new normal, right? I've worked from home for almost 5 years now. So it's not abnormal for me to be home and in my office all day, but video calls, that wasn't a thing that we did. And if we did do them, they were just with internal staff and I didn't really care. But now, like more inner agencies or more connection through video, I think it's really important, but it also like reminds us, like putting a plant next to our desk, which we just bought probably $150 worth of plants yesterday and we just didn't get to planting them yet. So this one's been planted, but they're there. And like moving pictures that kind of get pushed away. It's not, yes, yes, Wendy, it is recorded. Just moving things around and just kind of like readjusting can really change our mood. I was really hopeful that my really cute dog would come lay in her dog bed, but she didn't. So we tried. She's sleeping on the couch, taking her healthy habits and taking naps, and she's enjoyed having both of us home, but I think we'll have a lot of changes to move forward.
Katie, would you be willing to do 2 things? 1, add your email to the chat, and 2, can you shift to the 5 signs infographic that you have?
Yes.
Perfect.
Maybe if I can move the screen over. I thought I was pretty tech savvy. Okay.
And do you mind if I share out your email to everyone?
You're welcome to do that.
Perfect. So, yeah, I was thinking about now that we are virtual. So I'm virtual, and some of our organizations have some different restrictions of like what we can put up in a bathroom, etc. I was trying to think about whether I'd be able to, even adapt this to like be a virtual background, and just creative ways that we can sort of communicate to all the circles that we're part of that we really want to be connected as whole people in this time, even in the midst of our sometimes quite booked Outlook calendars. And so trying to, embrace our humanity in the midst of, for some of us, life is extremely chaotic, and we're wearing multiple hats. And so this is just really tricky right now.
For sure. Changedirection.org also has a Facebook page, so they've done pretty well at putting out these infographics to share, via Facebook. I'm also the FRG lead for my husband's unit, so I am constantly putting this stuff out there. I'm also sharing like military one source newsletter, things that people don't really normally get, and I get for my job. And I think that that's been really helpful for individuals, even though most people are just kind of like glossing over them. They're eventually there to kind of just be in that archive, right? And maybe right now we won't see the influx of need as people kind of really start to learn that this is a big change. And working from home is great, and I've loved doing it, but like at year 3 I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? There's no people around. And my poor husband is like, he gets home and he's like super introverted, and he gets home and he's like had enough. He's in the Army, so he's a detachment sergeant, and he has people coming in his office all day long, like an open like shut door. And he comes home and I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what happened? Look what I did. Like hey, you're a person and I haven't seen one all day, and I like miss interacting with them, and I'm really extroverted. He's like, whoa, I need like 5 minutes to just chill. And so that was something that we navigated at the very beginning of our relationship. But then he had surgery, so he was home for about a month before COVID, and then he was home working from home from like, I think it ended up being like 7 weeks. And when he finished working every day, he was like, wow, now I understand why you bombard me at the door, right? Like, he doesn't even like hanging out with people most of the time, but he was so used to seeing them all the time that he was like, wow, it is really weird to stay home. It is really isolating. And yeah, you're on the phone, yeah, you're emailing, but paying attention to that, and something that I've had years to adapt to, but also still struggle with sometimes, where like, man, I wish I worked in an office, or I had somebody I could like go stand at their desk and like bounce this idea off of, because I'm having a hard time. I'm just stuck.
I wonder for some of us who are part of teams or leading teams, and I asked this question with our Psych Armor presentation a few weeks ago. I'm curious what challenges and successes individuals have had incorporating things like attending to emotional wellness and emotional suffering in the context of work and teams.
Oh, he's gonna bite, huh?
Well, I'm okay with silence. I also know that several folks on here work in hospice and palliative care, and we're comfortable with allowing people to jump in.
Hi, everybody. This is Courtney. Can everybody hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Hi. I have one weekly team meeting, and I wouldn't say they really check in on everyone's emotional well-being, but I do know that they try to start the meeting off where everybody is welcome to share something positive that has happened to them since the last time we met. And so the only thing with that, I think it really is helpful for most people. That's been the feedback that we've received. But I do know that with some people who are struggling, it might be difficult for them to provide something positive that they can share with everyone else in the group. When they first started doing that with these meetings, the program coordinator who led the meeting, she would put everybody on the spot and make them go around and say, please share something. But fortunately, they've adapted that process. And so it's just, they offer it up to people if they're willing to share. So that's really been my only experience with anything relatable.
Yeah, we've also started doing something at the end of our staff calls. We used to have like everybody give an update from every single program and everybody that was working, and we changed that to just managers giving updates. Nothing like program managers or like directors giving updates, and then at the end we bring forward a problem and we work together to solve it. So we just kind of collaborate, and I think that's been really helpful for some of the staff who have very similar day-to-day jobs. So their job is that one task every single day, and it's really monotonous and boring and wearing on them. And so giving them the opportunity to like think and use their brain and contribute and be part of the team, I think has been really helpful for a lot of staff that don't get to do that normally. So that might be something that's helpful depending on how your teams are set up, and everybody's just so different in how they run their organizations now, but that's something that we've done. We've not done, but I offered to set up like a gratitude exercise or like a small group meeting after the presentation that Dr. Kraft gave, because I thought that might be helpful. And a lot of our staff, and I don't know if it's true for yours, have kids at home right now, and they are like losing their mind. My husband's kids don't live with us. They live with their mom, but they will be here starting in June. So I will have that to navigate, but luckily I think their school will be over, and he'll do a lot of their schoolwork with them. But just having them here and trying to navigate that last summer was really interesting. I took a lot of time off, and we like moved my computer to the pool so I could watch them while they were at the pool, which we won't have this year. So just kind of like getting used to that constant chaos, and giving them something that they can do that's like fulfilling, right? You don't want them to be bored while you're working. And just taking the time to like do something with them, or even if it's after work, like engaging them and playing games, or I don't know, maybe squirt gun fight, I don't know, something fun that they get to like release all of that built up energy from sitting inside, because we're not meant to do that. Did anybody find a sign or a healthy habit that they didn't know of before or didn't have a name for before during the presentation?
This is Heather. No, nothing new, but it is funny, the self-care one in the time of COVID again, because like, why get dressed?
Right?
But I have been trying to make that effort. I noticed I wasn't, and I'd be more reluctant to like jump on videos because I wasn't, ready-ish. So it is funny how it creeps in with the best of us, and how I do feel so much better when I actually put real clothes on and not stay in pajamas all day.
Crazy that like setting your day that way like actually changes your mindset.
It does.
I think that's part of one of the things that I miss the most of like working in an office. I have an entire wardrobe of clothes that's like a ridiculous amount that I've acquired over the years, and I don't work from like I work from home, so I'm like constantly wearing the same things, and or like I work out in the morning, like stay in my workout clothes, and then later I'm like, I'm gonna work out again. It's gonna motivate me, right? No, I'm just like now I want to go on video because my hair's messed up and my makeup's like a mess, or I don't have any on. So I think that's interesting. Probably something will also like be feel like a new energizing experience.
Your audio wasn't awesome right then, which I as I look at these 5 signs of emotional suffering, one reflection I have is that I can experience these multiple times throughout the day. It just feels very quick. So it's hard to even, I think just creating space for how our days perhaps can have even more volatility because there are just more external factors that are happening at one time, whether it's email, IM, text from phone, the video, the kids, all the things at once.
I think that's actually a really great point. We may not even notice them because they can occur so quickly. And even in somebody else that we are really close to, right? Whether that's our family that we're checking in with, that we may like see a glimpse of it and then it might just go away. I know my grandma, she is always kind of don't know, gloomy, I guess. But ever since my grandpa passed away, like, you can't really excite her, right? And you always kind of like redirect, and you're like, but look, this is what happened today. Like, look at my this. Like, I sent you a picture. We got her a frame that like sends pictures of the kids from all our grandkids and all of that. Like, they would just appear through an app, and that's been like really helpful to like redirect her attention instead of like, today's rainy and I hate it, and all I have to do is watch TV and read my book, and nobody's down here in Florida where I live right now because they go home for the summer and this is not fun and I don't feel like going for a walk because it's too hot out. Then she can like look at the picture and like redirect herself. So finding those things, and even if she didn't find that for herself, like we found it for her. So helping her to, you know, redirect her thoughts and like, oh, hey, here's a really happy picture from 10 years ago that I now have this memory of. And I told Jared, move, I want to put those like all over our house because I am like, the worst. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures and I love looking at them, but how often do I pull up my phone? And then I also don't want to print them all because there's thousands of them. And what do you do with them? So setting something like that up, I think, would be really helpful for those people who maybe live by themselves, especially right now, are forced to be by themselves all the time.
Well, thank you, Katie, for presenting. We will make this available on the VCP website. Also, thanks everyone for participating with us. You have access to both of your Colorado Veteran Community Partnership co-chairs, Courtney McGuire, who goes by Bowers, and Heather Camper. And so I also just wanted to open it up to those of you who are participating. We would love to hear any input of like, what are the pressing issues that are currently on your plate. Another way of saying that would be what bugs you, and what could we as a community of community and VA partners aiming to support military families, veterans, service people, what could we collaborate together on? You know, this being an example of what we collaborated on in Psych Armor a few weeks ago. So feel free, we'd love to hear what bugs you, and then also feel free to email Courtney Bowers. But would anyone like to be bold and just say, you know, today on my plate, this is what's challenging? Or we'd be happy to hear a success.
Hi, everyone. This is Wendy. I do feel that our team, we do a once-a-week check-in with our hospice team. And it's been really successful. I think they've done a really good job of letting people touch in, or we have a memorial, or just kind of, how's everyone doing? It's been really great. I would highly recommend doing that. So that's, I would say, a success for our hospice.
Hi, this is Julie. I work with Wendy at Dignity Hospice, and what we start to do at IDTs, or it's actually been ongoing, is we'll have a quiet moment, and one of our social workers or chaplain or one of our team members will lead basically, or have like a guided meditation. And I think that really is a wonderful thing before we begin with our IDT or messages from our leadership. And so I know we've been continuing with that when we do those check-in calls as well. And I think they're just wonderful to have to kind of get everybody's head in the same kind of space and to be present.
Thanks for sharing that. I think many of us are very fortunate to work in highly interprofessional teams, and it is a great opportunity to share in the leadership and share in the discipline perspectives and strengths of various disciplines that are beneficial, but maybe not familiar to others of us on the team.
Good morning. This is Maria Callis from the Denver Hospice. Our CMO has started doing weekly calls with all the staff for updates on COVID, but also an opportunity for anyone to share any questions or share any feelings or concerns. And that's been really well received by all of the staff. We also have a midday contemplation call. And so our chaplains and our one of our physicians leads a discussion or presents a meditation for us. And we have all found that to be really very inspirational and just a wonderful opportunity for everyone to reconnect.
Is that every day you said, Maria?
Yes, it is. It's every day at noon. And then the check-in with our chief medical officer is every Friday at 1.
Yeah, wonderful. I think that there's such a good balance, and of course it changes in each season and it changes in each organizational culture of figuring out how frequently to do these things, and whether to make them optional or really strongly encouraged. And you know, we're both learning as we go, but then I agree with Katie, your comment earlier of let's go with what we know now, as in embrace, you know, what will June look like, and we probably have a good sense. It's not going to be extremely different where we need a different plan for every day. And so let's go ahead and move forward with making some plans to help us do sustainable work as whole people.
And I was last week during our staff call, we kind of talked about like connecting with each other. And though we've worked individually and independently and virtually for 5 years, like we do connect every once in a while, but like really reaching out and engaging with staff, you realize like a lot of people are struggling with so many things, and like just like letting them off their chest or like getting them off their chest is like helpful to them. Because you don't know, and you do see like their social media, because they're all friends on Facebook, but like you don't know what they're actually going through, and they don't realize like, hey, this stuff's going on, and I don't really want you to do anything and you can't change anything, but just talking about it and like being open and like reconnecting as humans, I think has been really something that's been interesting in all of this, that we used to be really good at as an organization and kind of have fallen away from.
Yeah, so I'm having a little private conversation here with Courtney that I'm now going to make public because it's appropriate. Except that copy paste doesn't work well, so I'm going to have to type it out. So, well, and I'll even just say it. Courtney has been talking with one of the VA social workers who's been participating on this chat by phone, Nikki Garrett. Nikki coordinates a number of things for older veterans and their caregivers. And so she observes that she's working with many aging veteran caregivers, and they are very burnt out. Currently, the veterans have limited options in terms of respite and other home services. And the caregivers are rock stars, which I completely agree with. And so I think related, Katie, to what you were just saying, there's value in recognizing each other and seeing each other, because sometimes that's a strong thing that we can do. Sometimes it's an important start, and then maybe we also need to figure out, like, are there other tangible ways we can help? But I put that out there. I make this public to all of us because you know, all of us, I think, on this call, or at least the ones of you who have names and who I know you care deeply about supporting caregivers. And I do wonder if we as a collective group could figure out a way to tangibly acknowledge caregivers, which might not be an event, but might be like sending a card. Maybe we could figure out how to create something and then get it to people. So that's just my first brainstorm, and perhaps more to come. Courtney and Heather will take input back and then come up with some options for us all as a community to consider.
I like that. There's just so many ways that people are being creative right now, which is because they're forced to, but like also great because you get to see things that you would have never imagined, right? Like the thing I saw on Facebook the other day where this little kid like made a hug thing and they like put gloves. So like they put their hands through it and like hug their grandparents with like a big plastic sheet. Unfortunately, they have to, think of something like that. But like also that's really cool that they came up with like a way to get what they really wanted or craved, right? Like being able to be with their family and their friends, or like a few of my friends who are like constantly posting like different ways that they've been able to social distance. So like having a campfire like 6 feet apart from each other. We can't do that here in Colorado because of burn bans, but back in Western New York, the ground's really wet and you can't start a fire even if you wanted to. So they're doing those types of things. Or like my brother, he has a Zoom FaceTime, like Zoom call with his like buddies from college and from various groups of friends, and they have them like once a week, which is really impressive. My friends all have kids and they can't coordinate that. Like it would never happen, but a group of guys every week, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and they're just like sitting together, like essentially like maybe having a beer, maybe not, just sitting there.
Yeah.
Super creative.
Yeah, there's so much space to be creative and, to look for the silver lining and to continue to work to identify where needs are and then collaborate. Well, are there any final comments from Heather or Courtney?
This is Courtney. No, I just want to just say that I agree. I think with honoring caregivers, and what we can talk about and brainstorm ways we can do that. But I think a little goes a long way. So even if we decided to send a card or just something of, some kind of acknowledgement, I do think that has the potential of really lifting someone's spirits who might just think that, well, everybody's going through this, I'm not really anything special. Other people are struggling as well, but just letting them know that, their struggles are important to us and we acknowledge it. I really think that has the potential to have like a good impact on people who are struggling right now.
Yes.
And then I'll mention that we're working on our June event. Is it June already? Jeez. For VCP. And so I'll be hosting our next networking call, which is a much more discussion-based, it's not a presentation, but we'll just come with a topic. So that's going to be finalized. But I'm looking at June, I think it was 16th, but don't quote me on that. Courtney will send out information on that, but we hope you can join us for that too.
Yes, I'll be sending our monthly newsletter in the next couple of days. And if you would like to be on that listserv, you can email me at courtney.bowers@va.gov.
Thank you everyone for participating, and we look forward to next month and our networking call. So stay in touch.
I'm so glad that we got together at the end of this. It was perfect.
Thank you, Katie, for leading us. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Katie. Bye, everybody.